Hey everybody, this is Chris with T3 Handicapping, and today I'll be going over the card for Wednesday, September 15th at Indiana Grand. I want to apologize. I know yesterday's podcast went a little bit long, so I'm going to try and keep it a little bit tighter today, get through it a little bit quicker so that you can get the information you need in a quick and digestible format. So that you can move on and start making some money. So, if you want to follow my picks, get updates with scratches, which in particular tomorrow at Indiana Grand, there is some possibility for some weather overnight into the morning. And so there is a possibility for maybe some, at least given the turf course, potentially an off track of sorts. It looks like the rain will be done by the time the card kicks off. But some of the rain will be coming in through the morning hours. So it does appear as though there's a good chance we could have a number of scratches, potentially even some track changes, or at least track condition changes. So, in order to make sure that you get all the most up to date information, you can follow me on Twitter at handicappingT3, and I've been really appreciating a lot of you guys reaching out there. Tweeting at me and following along with my picks. So I appreciate that. This card, I also have posted an article about on bettingnews.com. So you can go there and you can find a little bit more in terms of what I like about each of these horses, not just the raw number for those particular horses on bettingnews.com if you wish to get more information about the picks today. I'm going to do my results a little bit differently for Tuesday before I jump into Wednesday's card. I'm not going to show the T3 grid. The T3 grid is posted up on Twitter, so you can go back and you can look and see how I did in terms of some of the verticals. But I'm just kind of focusing here on the win wagers and how the picks are doing overall. So you can see definitely a good day in terms of a lot of green over in the A plus column. The only problem is it didn't really string together. Like here, I had a decent run. But I got clipped in these two spots by not having some winners there. So that was a little unfortunate and kept the day from being more profitable. But overall, still a pretty good day. I've been keeping stats on these numbers as I've been. Going through them at Gulfstream, at Indiana Grand, and right now horses in the A plus on this raw number are winning 51% of races. So I know there's four horses in this case, so you've got plenty of chances, but over 50% from this A column, which is good to see, and hopefully what you always want to look for. Most importantly, only 16% of races are being won from horses that don't show up anywhere here. So if you're playing the picks or some combination of the picks, you're hopefully greatly increasing your chance at success. So let's jump into Tuesday's card and let's see what we've got on hand. It is another card that does include some maiden races, and you can see I've actually got my Chris picks right over here. These are the picks that will be posted up on Twitter once scratches come in. I will update them accordingly. So I'm just going to kind of run through this real fast with my numbers and then briefly talk about if there's anything else that needs to be discussed. So I'm just going to blow this up a little bit more and let's jump right into it. So, our first race here, and I'll use red to mark so that it's different from what I've been marking in thus far. 5.5 furlong state bred maiden claiming, Blazing Justice, favorite, 81, B grade, Prince Act, 86, A grade at 20 to 1. I really like to see that. Now, obviously, if this horse runs to the 61, this horse is going to have a hard time getting there because the 75 was back on turf. This race is not on turf. But nevertheless, Prince Act is kind of interesting to me. Good connections and one that could spring an upset. I do like Ship Shape a lot, running competitive speed numbers, rated out as a 107A+. The 70th, Broken Justice, first time starter, graded out as a 73C. But the problem that I'm having here is we are 0 for 3. So when I actually go to play this, I am not going to be using the 4 here. I will pass. I will let the 4 beat me, and I will move on. Successfully done 101A+. We've got definitely competitive figures here, still lightly raced. And then Stand and Serve out of 108. And this actually comes out to be my top pick for the race. You've got a 108, which is extremely good. We've got this trending up line, which I always like to see, and especially when the horse hits its top number, going short on dirt, which is what it will be doing today at 5.5 furlong. So I'm going to probably in this one stick pretty heavily into the 6, 3, and 5. Um, And then I might use the 2, probably in just a win play show because I think I'm going to get a fairly good price on that. And if the horse wins, I don't really need it to be connected to anything to be profitable. Moving on to race number 2 on the day. This is a 1 mile, 70-yard event. So we're going to route of ground. State bred optional claimer, 80,000 non 4 lifetime. So these are horses that have been fairly successful, right? They've had non 4 wins in their lifetime. And then there's a whole bunch of other stipulations that go with that. So that's why you're seeing a horse like here that has 6 wins, which in theory would not qualify it. When you have one of these goofy conditions like that, I do like to look for horses with the top number of wins. I think that's kind of a sneaky way to find a group of connections that may be taking advantage of the conditions a little bit because non-4 winners lifetime. How is this horse getting in with 6? That doesn't seem to make sense. That to me speaks to a trainer who understands the condition book and understands how to get horses into the right spot. So I've got 99 A plus on the number 1, and I've got a 106 A plus on the 2. And again, you're seeing I've got 7 wins in a race that's supposed to be exclusive to non-4 lives. But because of where some of those wins happened, they're able to get in despite having won more than the allotted conditions. So I really like the 1 and the 2. Those are going to be on my A plus line. I've got Two Last Words, who graded out as a 79C. Based on what I have in the 1-2, I'm probably not going to use this one. Um, the number 4, Mystery Unbridled, 73C. Again, you're seeing, we're still seeing that from both. This one had 5 wins, 6 wins, so kind of everybody is over that lifetime limit through the early stages until we get to number 5, Bayou Cat. Bayou Cat does rate out though as an 86A. You can see these really good speed figures, 82, 85. Even if it drops down and runs closer to the 72 or the 79, it's going to be good enough to beat some of these middlers in here. So I'm hoping I can have this one on board as well. But I'm feeling pretty good about the 1 and the 2. This one has only won 4 races, but also has only run 18 times. So a little less experienced than some of the other ones. Toss of Fate. 4 wins in 20 starts, and this one runs an 87, which is also good enough for an A grade. So when I actually went and graded all these horses out, you can see that I had the 2 and the 1 in that order. So these will always be numbered out in rank order. So the 2 is better than the 1, the 6 is better than the 5. I've got the 2-1 and the 6-5 all as A type horses, but obviously the 2 and the 1 are the strongest of those. And then the 5-6 will be used a little bit underneath, especially when I'm playing at Indiana Grand. I will often do, maybe like, $5 daily double connecting my A pluses, and then I'll do like $2 daily doubles connecting an A plus to an A, and then I might even do like a $1 daily double just connecting my A horses, just to make sure I've kind of got, at least these 5 slots covered, these 4 slots covered. Um, and here I don't really have any bombs where I can utilize the win place and show pool to my advantage. The 4 horses I like are the 4 horses on the morning line. So nothing too creative there, but there's a time and a place to be creative, and there's a time and a place to get a winner home. So race number 3, we've got a mile on the turf for Philly State Bred Maiden Special Weights. So already our second maiden race of the card, and we're only 3 into it. As I've mentioned several times before, that does make it a little bit hard with my system because it is so data driven, and a lot of these horses just don't have as much data. Now, in this case, we're looking at horses that, generally speaking, for maiden special weights, have a ton of data. So I actually feel like I have a pretty good read on this race. Number 1 at 6-1 is a 106 and an A, and in fact, this is my top rated horse in this race. Now, I don't love the plunging line here. That's something that I always tend to steer away from. But what you can see is the horse was running okay and then ran 0-12, but that was on dirt. So if we're really looking at the turf form, a 67 down to a 52, which I don't like to see. But nevertheless, those numbers are better than what the 12 might indicate. So I'm going to get extra price on this horse because of that last number. People are going to look at that and say, well, this horse can't win. But I think it has a shot. Now, the concern would be rail. At least we're on turf, so that shouldn't be quite as big of a deal. Good stalking trip. I like this one here as long as we're staying on the turf, which again is certainly something we'll have to monitor as we head into the day tomorrow. This horse here, 79C, you can make the same case here that, you come back to this 51's not bad, but even, in one of its worst turf races in the last form cycle, this horse would still beat that horse home. So something to think about there. We're moving on here. I'm an H Lady Cat, 70C. Again, I kind of like the other options that I have available to me here. Um, so I probably would end up not using this one on the ticket. Were I to do that, 0 for 14 lifetimes, obviously a great concern for me. Quite whimsical. 0 for 10, that's a problem. 47 on the turf when it ran last out. Before that, 32. So not really anything to suggest that we've missed something on turf. This horse hasn't even been close, so I'm going to pass there. Jack's Finale. Looking here, I've got a little bit of a downward trend. 49s aren't bad on turf compared to this field. I don't like where the horse has finished in those events, but nevertheless, that's not horrible. The only thing that's a little concerning here is Steve Fridley seems to be having a little bit of a rough go of late. You can see blinkers off. I mean, they're small sample sizes, 0 for 5, 0 for 13, 0 for 9. But nevertheless, I typically like to find a player or a horse that's moving up in form. The advantage to this one is at 5 races, this might be the most lightly raced horse in the crew. And that might suggest that, maybe it can take a step up. Right. So I don't know on this one. I am kind of torn as to whether or not I would actually keep it on the ticket or I would drop it. It is concerning to me that it's lost to others in this race previously. The Stone event, another one that's only run 5 times. We look back here. The turf races are okay. They're not great. I think there's others that can win here. And again, you're looking at a horse that's never been closer than 31 lengths to the leader at the end of a turf event. So I think I'll pass. Stormy Wager, it's hard not to see this one home. Pretty much any of the last 5, 6 races from either one of the barns that it's been running in will be good enough to get the job done here. And they put a 1 to 5 on the line, and I think a lot of that has to do with you've got Deshaun Parker, you've got a clear standout, a horse that's been close on turf. Turf margins are obviously a lot closer, so losing by 2.5 isn't great on turf, but it's certainly a lot better than losing by 38 and 31. So this one seems like the right one. It seems like the one that you're probably gonna need to use a lot of. I'm gonna try and beat it a little bit with the or with the one. Sorry, who rates out just a bit higher. That's this guy right here, priced Cupcake. Again, I mean, if I can get this horse home, if the 7 takes the kind of money I think it's going to take, I'm going to get plenty of juice from that. I will probably also do some like straight exacta straight tries with the 7 over, and then probably the 1. And when we get to the 8 here on the next one, on the 8. Now the 8, the problem here is we're talking main track only. So the 8 won't be a factor if this race stays on the turf. If in fact it goes off, then this horse obviously becomes a major player, um, simply because once it flips to the off surface, then this one becomes more attractive simply because of the fact that it's entered only if that circumstance happens, whereas the rest of these are hoping to run on turf. This one is exclusively hoping to get this race onto dirt so that it has a chance to go. So definitely has to be played if the course flips and goes over to dirt. I'm not sure how likely that is. I think there might be some give in the ground, but based on the timing of the storms, I think they might still be able to at least get off on a good turf course. Now, whether they want to use that in race 3 or not is up to track management. But we'll kind of monitor that and see how it goes. But I'm going to be heavily through 1, 7, and 8, regardless of surface. I should be very clear on that. It won't change that much, even if things flip to dirt. If you are following me on Twitter, by the way, and things flip from surfaces, I will actually go back into the data and I will flip the surface. So it will recalibrate the entirety of the race for the new surface. So that's another reason to follow me at Handicapping T3 on Twitter. Race number four, 6 furlongs, state bred allowance, 40,000 and 3 Ls. What's been really interesting actually over the last few days is I've been doing a lot better in the lower level races, and these higher level races have been the ones where I've usually gotten beat by a favorite that I think looks flimsy. Or a low priced horse that I think looks flimsy on paper. So it's kind of interesting just how that's worked out. I've the ones that are supposed to be less predictable and more volatile, I've had a little bit better read on, and the ones that are supposed to be more formful and straightforward. I've kind of zigged when I was supposed to zag. So we'll see how this one goes. I've got Rich Kingdom at 81B. Got decent speed figures for the level. We're looking at a par of 79. We can see this horse has run over that, which is good. Idea Man 73C. I don't see anything to suggest otherwise. Speed figures a little light when you look at the 80 that was thrown up here. It's kind of low 70s, upper 60s, unless you go back to July. So, not really one that I'm looking too heavily at. Gennaro Garcia sends out looking at Justice. This one came out to be a 66. Again, you're maxing out with this horse kind of in the low 70s under the current form cycle. You have to go back to like late in the year in November to find an 85. But if you go back to like September 30th, this is probably the closest race. 77 back in the Hillside Stakes. I don't know. It's just been so far off form since then. It's hard to see it getting back to that, even with a drop in class today. Prepare for Glory comes out. Again, you're kind of looking at a max out of a mid 70s buyer or a mid 70s Brisnets figure. 80 speed figure will rate out as a B. Marcelina Pedroza, 20% trainer. Those are things that when I look at, I just see as a real strong indicator. Coming in here, the number 5, Azaro Steel, it has a 94 and is an A plus. And actually, if you look over here at my grid, this is the one I'm going to be using most heavily, even without the class adjustment. The 5 stands above the rest: the 7, the 1, and the 4. We've already looked at the 1 and the 4. We've already looked at the 2, who falls on the C line. To me, this is the horse you're going to really want to use as you're going forward here, and this will probably be one that's singled in a lot of my tickets. Long Live Justice 63, not going to use. The Devil's Algorithm is an interesting one. The 7 horse here. These figures are really, really solid for sure. But the problem is the horse has won its last 2 starts, and that means that it has to keep climbing the class ladder. So it's going to be a little bit tougher here moving up. We're also on a dirt course where coming from way out of it isn't a super good way to come about things. Now, what I will say helps out the Devil's Algorithm here is, yeah, this race came from way out of it to get the job done back in July. But that was really the way the track was kind of playing then. It was okay to be a deep closer and get there. What I really like is the versatility that this horse showed by coming from a little bit tighter in the last race. So I will definitely use that horse, but more on a beeline. I'm going to really try and beat it with the 5-2 shot in the number 5. Two birds, one stone, 51X. I don't really need to go through that one with great detail. Race number 5, we've got another 7.5 furlong on the turf for main special weights. Again, depending on the weather, this one could have dramatic changes, which will be indicated on my Twitter account. You can see this guy, 13% first time starter. Um, bred okay for the grass. I don't know. This is a tough one. I kind of like rail positions on turf. I think that tends to be really good. Alex Ashar, 9% on the turf, so not horrible. He seems to understand how to ride it there. Um, this is one I would definitely want to think about as maybe an include. Now, Mariah's Fortune comes out at 5-2. You've got 2 solid speed figures. Now we're going to flip over to the grass, which is interesting, but you're coming out for Brad Cox, who is just really good at this stuff. I think probably Fernando de la Cruz, Brad Cox, this number's probably going to get hammered down. You're going to have to decide how short of a price are you willing to take on this horse, because I have a strong suspicion, especially if we lose a couple horses, this horse is going to probably take money on either surface. Just because of the Brad Cox name. Fernando de la Cruz seems to be good for a win almost every day. And so with that, I think you're going to see a lot of money just betting connections there as well. And frankly, the numbers to back it up. This is one that I think needs to be upgraded. And I think if you leave this one off your ticket, you're doing so very dangerously. Now, if you like Mariah's Fortune with this 67, you think that's good enough. You have a horse that's already run on the turf, ran a 65. So just below what the other horse ran on dirt. We're not sure if the two is going to translate that over to the grass. We already know that Zipsy Rose Lee can run that fast on the turf. You look at this 44 races, and we've got a trainer who's 30% in the second career race and 19% over a 16 horse sample size, second career on the grass. So to me, this is the horse that's going to pull the upset here. I really like this horse a lot. I don't love the 6% jockey who's only 7% on the turf. That's a little concerning for me, but I do like that that's the horse that rode this one first time out. So should at least know the horse better than maybe a jockey coming in for the first time. I think the three in this race, race number 5, is one you definitely want to keep an eye on, and I think is definitely one that you kind of want to upgrade here for all the stats I just talked about. I Need a Girl Like You. This is another one. If you like all the things up here, the trainer is not quite as good, 14 and 9%, but you do get a little jockey upgrade. Now, Sancho Santo is in the doghouse for me because he made my pick look bad yesterday on the live feed. They read my tweet and he lost by a head. So he's a little bit in the doghouse for me on these turf route races, but I'll give him the opportunity to redeem himself today. I'm sure he's really affected by the fact that I'm mad at him for not getting my horse to the wire today. So definitely one you got to use. But I think that 3 is just so interesting at a price. And if you can use that as a separator, that's a great opportunity to do so. Giddy Up Zoe, not without a chance, kind of moving in the right direction since moving to these turf routes is going to get a slight cutback, which is nice. Going to get some Lasix, going to drop in class. Yeah, this one's a 61X, but this is another one where I might think about if you have a C ticket, a backup, you might want to get on board with this one or at least throw this one on the bottom of your verticals because there's a lot of things there that suggest, this horse could be ready to take a step forward and outrun the odds. And at 30 to 1, you're going to be compensated for taking that risk. Similar situation here. You've got Marcelina Pedroza, you've got Brad Cox, so you know this one's going to take money. The first time out, not as good, but at a little bit better track. So the drop in class today should help. And this is another one that's going to run, I think, very well. 87A grade there. Deshaun Parker for Rudolph Brissett. Honestly, Brissett just it doesn't seem. And I know he's 3 for 17 here, but it just doesn't feel like this is his best string right now. It doesn't feel like things are really firing on all cylinders. And with first time starters, 11%. I think Zing's one I'm going to just kind of take a wait and see approach with. I've certainly got plenty of other options that I think are going to run well rather than just a straight roll of the dice with first time starter. I also am always weary of first time starters going long on grass. To me, that's a weird place to start them when so much of racing in the United States is sprints and early speed and dirt. Why not there, or why not at least a 5 furlong or 5.5 furlong, 6 furlong, something in that to put a little something into the horse before you stretch him out, even if you think that's where they're going to go, or her. Sorry. Um, I was a part owner of a horse that they started long on the turf and it's run 2 horrible races and could be retired. So to me, that's just always a big red flag. 87A on Swizzle City over here. Again, you've got a really nice first time start. Tom Amos, so you've got great training numbers. And you get Edgar Morales at 15% aboard. This is another one to use. So it's hard because I really like that 3 horse as a C, but as I'm starting to look here, I mean, I'm also 5 deep on the A line. So maybe this is a situation where I'm going to just kind of take one of those, Custer's last stand kind of moments. I might just throw the 3 in and just say, if the 3 can pull the upset, I'm going to kill everybody's tickets. I'm going to have doubles into the 3, doubles out of the 3, pick 3s maybe going through the 3, and maybe one other horse. So maybe like the 2 and the 3. And then from there, if I lose, I lose, and I chalk it up to I tried to find value and I just couldn't. I got beat by a horse that I knew could win, and that's okay with me. This name is okay. You've got decent numbers here. Um, Apparently, I'm really behind on my updates here. You have decent numbers, a little bit light, and we're on the wrong surface. I'm not really sure. We do have one turf winner in the family. Sharp workout, going 11 of 16. You've got 9 of 49. It's a decent workout pattern. But debuting first on grass, only 11%. With as many choices as I have at 30 to 1, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of extra time worrying about this one beating me. Iggy Biggs. This is one rated out as an A horse, and you can see why. I mean, there's decent reason to believe that the 66 all-time best speed figure comes when the horse drops into maiden claiming. So got a little bit of class relief, but was also going long on the turf. So you have to make the decision: was the improvement the long on the turf part, or was the improvement the drop in class? It came out to be an 89A. Honestly, of my A selections, this is the one I'm going to downgrade the most. Uh, there's a lot of guesswork that's going into that, and I tend to believe that it has less to do with the surface. I think good horses are good horses on any surface. This horse was way overmatched in maiden special weight 30, drops down into maiden claiming, finds some friends, gets close, and now is coming back. Into the maiden special weight ranks. What is the meaning of that? Now you might think, well, maiden special weight here versus a maiden claimer at Colonial. Maybe that's not the biggest change in the world, but I'm gonna probably not use this one as a strong A. I might even downgrade this one to a B when I go to put in my actual tickets. The 6 Ling Ling, 49.5. I'm just not using. All right, moving on to race number 6 today. 5.5 furlongs, optional claimers, 40,000. We've got Keeping It Classy at 12 to 1, 83B. So you've got a really good price to get started here in your picks. Boca Boy at 7 to 2, rated out as an 87, which is an A. Number 3, Tale of Fame, at 2 to 1, 91 A plus. It seems like this is going to be a good horse here, and certainly one that is worth using. Flower Pecker is another one. Thomas Pompel. You've got Kim Hammond, also rated out as an A, 95 A plus. So a little bit better than the 3 horse there in that spot. You've got the 5 Kadri, who is also a 97 A plus. We're going to obviously have a jockey change here as Declan Carroll is recovering from injuries. Um, 67.6 on Powell, I'm not going to use. Sanjo Santer, Fiery Tail, 53. Just not going to use that one. Bandito de Amores, 51, not going to use. And then Rob the Rich, 92 A plus. Now, one of the things I like about this is even though my A line has spit out 4 horses, I've got one at 8 to 1. I've got one at let's see, the 5 horse was at 4 to 1. The 4 horse was at 10 to 1. And so the only one that's in my top picks that's real short is the number 3 Tale of Fame. So I don't mind going a little bit deeper on my A line if I know that I've got some potential for value. We continue on with the maiden special weights, going long on the turf. This seems to be a favorite kind of condition of Indiana Grand. I'm going to keep this one pretty straightforward. This one's a 73C. I do think you want to be a little wary here of all these good stats. If this one's taking money, you're probably going to want to upgrade it. The only thing I'm going to say is Cherie DeVoe. Not a lot of experience coming up to Indiana Grand. Only 3 runners this go round. Now, we might see a little bit more of that. Cherie DeVoe, largely based out of Gulfstream Park. Now, with Gulfstream getting the synthetic track put in, I'm going to rest the turf course for a little while. Maybe we'll see some of those Gulfstream shippers look for other opportunities in more of the Mid Atlantic circuit. Or at least until Churchill opens and they can get them there. So, but nevertheless, I'm always weary of horses that are trying to come in, and especially at 5 to 2. Deshaun Parker's such a good jockey. It's hard to totally discount this horse, especially with the stats from the trainer. I'm just a little weary of it. Here we've got Claire June. I'm just not going to use. We've under 10% on the first time starter, rates out as a 69. I love Anna Gangsta. Got a first time under the belt. Now it was on dirt. We switched surface, but things have been going well for Fernando de la Cruz and Brad Cox. 101 A plus is the rating there. This one I have no interest in using. Bad jockeys, bad trainer stats, and it did not rate out well. This one, 6% debuting on the turf with over 100 starters. To me, that's really concerning. I know the breeding is good. I know there's a bullet workout. All that stuff is just fine with me. I'm just, why is, Brendan Walsh is 17% on the year. 10% with first time starters, that's a forgivable difference. But 6% debuting on the turf, why is this horse coming here? Unless it comes off. If it goes to dirt, then that becomes very interesting to me, because if they're only 6% debuting on the turf, then there might be room for improvement on the dirt. I love this angle right here. The only thing I will say is the computer shot this one out as a 91.5, because a lot of these things are good. Obviously the drop in class, the adding of Lasix. The problem that I have, well, actually 13% on the second time. I'm not 100% sure, other than, hey, this horse has a really low speed figure, but that's Kentucky Downs. I mean, you might as well say this horse is starting for the first time. They're going to get you, the horses tend to get great fitness out of Kentucky Downs. It's some of my favorite form to bet back, regardless of how poorly they finished. And look at this. 8 by 33. That's going to take a lot of people off of this horse, and it's going to get me onto this horse because I think Kentucky Downs is just a fitness track for a lot of these horses, and maybe it comes back here. Maiden 135, we ain't running for Maiden 135 today, so maybe we can make something happen there. On to Ruth, 94 A plus. We see a nice little jump up there. Ellis Park got a little stretch out, did better. Now we'll get a little bit of a cutback, so that's nice to see. We'll definitely be using that one. Bourbon Buns, 81B. You can see kind of a general downward trend. It's not a lot, but again, we're switching surface. So how do we really know what to make of that? 33, you've got 13% on the second career race. I might think about using it. It's certainly, if the price is anywhere near 20 to 1, then it's fair. But if things start to change, um, if this horse gets bet way down, now that might also suggest that the horse is live coming off that first start. So it's really hard to say. If it's totally chilly on the board, then maybe I'll say, nah, let's skip it. I've got enough other players. Proto Magic comes up, 70C, 51. This one is one that I will leave off my tickets. I always look to the trainer to see sort of how good they are at preparing the horse after this happens. I just don't think that horse can, or that trainer is going to have this prepared, even though the sample size are fairly small. I love this horse. The 71 is obviously impressive. 5.5 now is going to stretch out, dropping in class from Ellis Park. First time Lasix, 8%, not great. Overall, the trainer doesn't do terribly well, but second career race is 20% winner. So if this horse draws in, definitely worth a look, especially with Marcelina Pedroza aboard. But we'll kind of have to wait and see if this one even gets to be a player, depending on where things are. And then again, we'll have to see, does this race stay on the turf? This horse is clearly turf meant. Most horses do not start on the turf if they're going to run on the dirt. They'll find a dirt prep. Horses that are meant for the turf will sometimes even have a dirt prep to get their career started. This one's clearly turf meant. So if the race comes off, I would assume this one comes out, but it's hard to know until any of that actually happens. And by this point in the day, maybe we'll have things dried out a little bit. Uh, Now we get into the stakes portion of the card. We've got a mile and a 16th. This is the Empire Stakes. I'll run through this one really quick because I've got a pretty thorough write up on this one on Betting News if you want to get more information. So 44X on the one, Comfort Me Now 36X, and then Stop Hammer Time 61X. Stop Hammer Time, really likes to come from behind, and that just, you've been able to do it, but it hasn't been as prevalent. You've definitely wanted to be more forwardly placed. We've seen a couple really nice performances, but that requires a really fast pace. I'm just not sure we're going to get it here. So I'm going to play against that horse. I'm going to play against the 4 as well. And then Red Skies at Night, 6 to 1, Fernando de la Cruz, Brad Cox. 78 C letter grade on that one. One that I'm interested in using as the horse switches back over to dirt. But you can see this is a horse that kind of runs the same no matter where it is. So uh, I kind of like the idea of this one popping up. And I think sometimes Brad Cox does better when he's underrated. I think sometimes when he gets real heavy favorites in, They can sometimes run a little bit flat. Uh, I think in this case, he's kind of sitting in the weeds right where he wants to be to take a step forward. That leads us to our second one, Max Express. He rates out as an 80B. Now, the thing that's a little weird for me is you took this horse over to the turf. So, to me, this looks like a turf horse that fits the conditions. So, they're bringing him back onto the dirt because he's run well there too. I would prefer to see this horse in a turf stake. Or running somewhere where they can repeat this because they seem to have found a new level of form jumping over here. So I will use, certainly has to be respected, but run style wise and surface wise, I think maybe we're jumping on the wrong surface here. From who the bell tolls is rated out as a three, just the number three. So definitely passing there. Uphold 77, we'll use as a C grade. Again, you've got some numbers back here that are good enough. This 82, but again, on a sloppy surface. So if the course is dried out by the eighth race, probably want nothing to do with this horse because its fast races, unless you go back to November of last year, just aren't good enough. Vice Comp, I'm not going to use there. Uh, this is where the key to my entire day is going to come in, though, and that's Cash Logistics, Alex Achard for Genevieve Landano. Great trainer stats right here. I love seeing this. This horse rated out, I don't know why there's not a plus there. This horse rated out as a 114, which is an insanely high number. The numbers are supposed to roughly usually come out to about 100 um, on a fair scale. Now you'll see 106s, 107s on a pretty regular basis, but 114 raw suggests that this horse is over the top good. Uh, this horse, kind of the opposite of what we talked about with one of the previous runners, is this horse, it looks like they kind of moved it over to the turf, I believe, just to take a shot at the stake. When they were running this horse in the optional claiming levels, they were on dirt, and that's what they were looking for. I also love, one of my favorite angles is to find a trainer who had this horse, who lost this horse, and who grabbed it back. Um, Genevieve Landano had it, lost it for two races to Mike Maker. Mike Maker tried to do what Mike Maker does, and when it doesn't work, it gets right back into the hands of the horse woman in this case, who had the horse going properly before. So I love this horse. This horse is going to be my number one selection across the board. Everybody else is going to be playing for minors, even the ones I've talked positively about. They'll be underneath. Star Spangled Express 49X not using. Barefoot Bootlegger 10X not using. 11X on Royal Icing. So we'll be moving on. Getting into the ninth race, this is a mile Hoosier Heartland Stakes. When we come into this one, I've got this one a little bit more tightly contested, but I do definitely have some clear contenders here. One of them is Pretty Assets. Now, the concern is the late running style of Pretty Assets, particularly when you see this right here. But here's more of a mid-pack effort that has been working, and that's something that they may be eligible to get going here. In particular, I like that that's on the dirt, and it has shown the ability to run and in fact win on a sloppy track. So if we do have moisture and there's still some off conditions by this point in the day, this one seems like a really logical player. I'm not going to use Brewski. Hit the floor running 75C. When we look at these numbers, if this horse gets back to an 82, I know that's kind of a step forward on a sloppy track. But when I'm looking at hit the floor running, I'm looking at 72s, 70s, and then a 64. So, and that was with a give in the track as well. So it's hard to know really exactly what this horse will run with a little bit of give. I'm going to go against this horse. Despite some of the good trainer numbers, I'm just going to take my chances here and hope that I can beat this one. April's No Fool. This one rates out extremely well for me. The concern here is that, this really good number right here was run on turf, but we do have a good number back on dirt that would certainly be good enough in this spot. It's just a question of how reliable can it be. Now, the one thing I will say is when we go and we look, let me just move this down a little bit. When you look at that 71 that was run in the last race, the horse won with a 71 at a dirt route. So it's always hard to know when the horse gets by a half, you'd think they're still engaged there, still trying to run on, but something to definitely think about, and a horse I'm going to use. Pearl Tiara. You've got Tim Gleishaw, Fernando de la Cruz, 79, a C grade. I'll definitely use the horse. I'm not over the moon with the price, and that was kind of the big thing. The advantage here is you're coming out of this is a horse that clearly runs in stakes, and clearly does very well. So I get the price. I get why it's there. Certainly has proven that it can win at Indiana, as it has done so in the last three races. Two of those three were stakes races. Has to be respected for sure. I'm just not sure I'm going to want to take a low price on the horse when there's other horses that I do have rated out higher and I think could really spring an upset. This is another horse that I like, particularly if there's given the track. Seems to run very well there. 90 A plus. A little concerned about coming from off the pace, but at the same time has 5 Kieran speed points, which shows that it can be near the front. I mean, we look here back in July and on July 1st, this horse really kind of took things forward. The one concern I have is Philip Bauer's 0% and 4% in a 48 horse sample size coming off the layoff. So that might cause me to downgrade that one just a little bit and press up some of my other choices. Emmanuel Esquivel for Cipriano Contreras, 75. I'll use the horse somewhere, but not interested in really using it all over the top. And then race 10, these numbers are somewhat arbitrary. They were kicked out because of quarter horse numbers, which my system just is not really designed to read. So that's kind of what things look like over here on my board. That's the raw board. You can see when I shrink it down and I take the more, this is the one that's based on class adjusted. You can start to see the horses that really stand out, and you can see why the number 10 horse became my best bet. Has clear separation from the other horses in the race, and that's what I really like to see when I'm creating a horse that's going to be sort of my prime player. So good luck to everyone tomorrow, or today I should say, at Indiana Grand. As you're playing on Wednesday, September the 15th, make sure you follow me on Twitter at Handicapping T3 for updated boards with scratches and surface changes, if that applies. And then, as I said before, you can always check me out on bettingnews.com. Good luck.